We're Veg Power, and we're here to show you how to cook a quick, easy, and affordable stir fry. We've got Dr. Giles Yeo to show us how to do it. Over to you, Giles.
Thank you so much, Steph. Now, stir fries are not just one dish. They're like a billion dishes because they use a few simple ingredients. You need vegetables and you need some kind of protein. And the protein can be meat, it can be prawns, it can be tofu, and how you actually make it can be leftover roast chicken, leftover roast beef, leftover roast lamb, right? Where you can actually combine it in an infinite number of different ways. And I'm going to be cooking a chicken, broccoli, pepper, and mushroom stir fry, and I'm going to serve that with noodles. All right, let's get started. Now, it depends what you're gonna have with the stir fry. I'm gonna have mine with noodles, okay? And so if you're gonna do that, you gotta get the kettle on. Why get the kettle on? Because it's a lot more efficient to actually have water boiled in a kettle before you put it into the pan rather than boiling it from cold in the pan. It saves energy. And you also need a second saucepan. And you need the second saucepan because of what you're gonna be doing with some of the harder vegetables. And remember to always stick the lid on to save energy. You can use any high-sided frying pan. This is just your normal frying pan that you have. Or you can use a wok. I'm going to use a wok today. And we're going to do enough, probably for 2 people. If you've got a larger family, you've got roommates in the house, what have you, just expand it. I'm going to be using chicken, and I'm going to be using chicken thighs. Okay? And I'm using chicken thighs because it's cheaper, and it's also more forgiving for cooking. It's far more difficult to overcook chicken thighs, and I think they're more tasty. Yeah, there we go. Now is the time to actually chop it up into bite-sized chunks, and we're also going to marinate the meat. What I tend to do with a chicken thigh fillet is I cut it down the middle, okay? And then 2 cuts, here and here. So you get 6 pieces of these bite-sized chicken from each chicken thigh. Now this is critical because a stir fry is meant to be cooked quickly. And so getting it to the right size is absolutely important. We're now going to wash the knife and wash the board. And this is absolutely crucial if you're actually going to be cooking with raw meat. Wash the board, wash your hands. You can use a different knife and different board, but do wash your hands. Right, now this next step is optional, but I find that it really adds a lot to the dish, and that's going to be marinating your meat before you cook it. And it really adds a great deal of flavor to the chicken and to any meat that you actually have, or tofu as well. Now, the reason why I put in the cornstarch is it helps the marinade ingredients stick to the chicken. When we get to the cooking stage of it, it actually also thickens the sauce slightly and making the whole thing more unctuous. Unctuous, yeah. Today, I'm gonna be making stir-fried chicken with broccoli, peppers, and I'm gonna be using mushrooms. I love to use ginger and garlic as well. So we're gonna just have 1 clove of garlic. And in terms of ginger, we're looking for a thumb-size piece of ginger. All right, so you can just kind of break off. It'll be thumb-size the moment you remove all the peel from it, trust me. At the temperature in which we're gonna be cooking this, grated garlic and ginger will burn. So it's best to actually chop it rather than to actually grate it. Okay, so now for the garlic, you chop off the end, and then rather than trying to battle your way through this, you just take the flat side of the knife, give it a squash, see? The entire peel comes off the garlic. And then we peel the ginger, and I don't do it really too carefully. Thumb-sized piece of ginger. Simple rule to follow, eat a rainbow of vegetables. It looks pretty, and it gives you a lot of fiber as well. You need to be thinking vegetables-wise, 2 handfuls of vegetables per person. I would probably say for a stir fry like this, probably 4 mushrooms of this size, roughly speaking, 1 head of broccoli, and a pepper. And I think that would be fantastic. Once again, this is not being prescriptive. You can add as much or as little as you want, really. What if your kids don't like vegetables? My kids don't like vegetables. Well, look, listen, check this out. They have to eat vegetables at some point. So you can then use this to Trojan horse in some vegetables. So start with just a little bit of vegetables. They get used to the stir fry. Add more and more in. Before they know it, they're eating a ton of vegetables and thinking, I'm just having my stir fry. There we go. So we'll do the mushrooms first. The key here is to make sure you chop up your vegetables into, once again, bite-sized chunks. Sort of like this kind of size. The thing about broccoli that is absolutely important is you got to get it to the right size. So that's the first thing. So you take off the little stalky bit at the bottom, like this. And this is a time where you can actually involve your kids, right? You can either use a knife, like me, or they come off. Once you've actually got the bottom off, see? And they come off in little chunks like this. This is the perfect size chunk for a stir fry. And last but not least, the pepper. What you want is you want around this kind of size, you want them in slice, that's what you're gonna go for. So the first thing you wanna do before we start cooking is to parboil your broccoli. Okay, 3 minutes in salted water, just a little bit of salt, like around, half a teaspoon, maybe there we go, like that. Now needs a little bit of oil. So that's about ready to go to actually put the broccoli in. The last thing to think about is your garnish. So I'm gonna be using coriander and a squeeze of lime. You can use chopped parsley, you can use spring onions, and so you want to chop these up first. So just a little bit of coriander, okay, and the lime, just cut in half, and that will be used at the end of the meal. You can use any veg that you like, and you can actually go to the website and have a look, types of veg, cooking times, just more information. So after 3 minutes, we now know the broccoli is done, because you're not trying to cook it, you're just trying to pre-cook it. And so take a colander, I'm using a sieve here. So what I did was to strain the veg and run some cold water over it just to stop the heating process so you don't overcook the veg. So now the next thing you're going to want to do is to get water on for your noodles. I love noodles or rice to accompany my stir fries. You can get these noodles from anywhere. I'm going to use egg noodles, Chinese yellow noodles. You can use Chinese rice noodles if you wish. They come in different shapes and sizes, sort of like pasta. Or if you're using rice, you can do that too. And it's 3 to 4 minutes for this particular packet of noodles. And one of these portions of noodles will feed 2 people. So while we're waiting for the water for the noodles to boil, let's think about the sauce. It is what adds the flavor. You stir it up. That's the cooking sauce that's gonna make the magic happen. Preheat the wok for a minute or so before then adding the oil. Resist the temptation to use olive oil because that will burn. So what you want to do is use an oil that will actually take high temperatures. Sunflower oil, ideal for this. Let the wok heat for about a minute. Stir fry is going to be done in less than 10 minutes and it needs to be eaten fresh. Get all your kids down now. I'm going to pop in the oil, about that amount of oil, and then you let it go around the wok. First things first is the ginger and the garlic. And you put that in first. You can listen to the sizzling. Keep it stirring. And now is when you actually add your raw meat. Now, if you're not cooking with raw meat, if you're cooking with leftovers, or if you're cooking with prawns or tofu, you add that at the end, okay? So you put the chicken in, once again, the sizzle. Ooh. And remember, keep it stirring. And this is absolutely critical, okay? Because otherwise they'll burn and begin to stick. You want to make sure that the chicken is pretty much nearly cooked before you add anything else in. Now, the reason you keep stirring it is, first of all, it's quite hot. You don't want anything to burn. But it's also to make sure that everything is cooked evenly. So all the size of the chicken and when the vegetables, when you add it, is exposed to the really high heat. It's going to take about 5, 6, 7 minutes, depending on the size of your chunks, for the chicken to be cooked. There is an order to add the vegetables, okay? So if you have mushrooms, now is when you want to add the mushrooms. So in go the mushrooms. Make sure the mushroom is tossed in with the chicken and it begins to absorb the flavors. And I'm going to put just a splash of water to deglaze the pan. All right, it's beginning to look delicious, smell even lovelier. Then the peppers go in. Keep stirring. And then now you add the sauce, and finally, the parboiled vegetables, the broccoli. And you put it in, and you just stir it. Now, if you're using prawns or if you're using tofu, then now is when you want to add it, after the last of the vegetables have been added, okay? And it really only takes another minute or 2 because everything is cooked. And in goes the noodles. Enough to feed 2 people. Remember to just continue to keep stirring the chicken, don't let it burn. And then the noodles will be done in 3 or 4 minutes and the whole thing will come together perfectly. So it's now been 4 minutes or so for these noodles. I'm gonna just put them up and then we can serve. Dinner time. Let's plate. We serve up the noodle. The delicious stir fry. Don't forget your garnish. Just a little bit of coriander. And to add a little bit of acidity, a squeeze of lime. Steph, are you ready to try this?
I'd love to try it. This looks and smells delicious. Thank you so much, Giles. For this recipe and more delicious recipes, please visit our website. And we now want to see your recipes. Show us what you've got on social media using the hashtag StirFryFrenzy.